Voices from a dead planet. No one noticed the signal at first. It arrived quietly, hidden beneath the noise of space, buried inside data streams that scientists had already learned to ignore. Satellites orbiting Earth recorded it again and again, but their systems marked it as interference. Random static. Cosmic background noise. That is what it looked like. But the signal was not random. It came from far beyond the edges of known space, from a region that astronomers had once mapped and then forgotten. A dark stretch of the sky where no stars shone anymore. Where a planet had once existed, and no longer did. The first human to truly hear it was Dr. Elias Morren. Elias worked alone most nights at the Deep Space Listening Array, a quiet facility built in the desert far from cities and radio pollution. He was not famous. He was not important. He was simply patient. And patience mattered when listening to the universe. That night, the desert air was cold. The stars above were sharp and distant. Elias sat at his console, eyes tired, fingers slowly scrolling through waveforms on the screen. Most of them meant nothing. They never did. Then one pattern repeated. Elias stopped scrolling. He leaned closer to the monitor, his heart slowing as his mind focused. The signal was faint but structured. Too structured. It pulsed in intervals, not evenly, not randomly. It felt deliberate. He ran the data through filters, removing background radiation and known sources. The signal remained. Clearer now. Stronger. And then something impossible happened. The signal changed. It adjusted itself. As if it knew it was being listened to. Elias swallowed hard. His hands trembled slightly as he amplified the audio frequency. He expected noise. Static. Maybe nothing at all. Instead, he heard a sound that made his breath catch. A voice. Not clear words. Not yet. But unmistakably a voice. Low. Broken. Echoing, as if spoken through layers of time and distance. Elias pulled off his headphones, heart pounding. He told himself it was pareidolia. The human brain was good at hearing patterns that weren't there. Especially voices. He put the headphones back on. The voice came again. This time, it spoke. The words were distorted, stretched thin across light years of space. But they were words. Can anyone hear us? Elias froze. His mouth went dry. His skin prickled as if the room had suddenly grown colder. This was impossible. Any civilization capable of sending a signal this far would be alive. Active. Broadcasting continuously. This voice did not sound alive. It sounded tired. He began recording everything. Over the next few hours, the signal repeated, growing slightly clearer each time. The voice spoke slowly, carefully, as if struggling to remember how speech worked. We are the last memory. Elias felt a chill crawl up his spine. The signal's origin coordinates were already on his screen. He glanced at them, then frowned. According to old star maps, there had once been a planet in that region. Once. Modern scans showed nothing there now. Just debris. Dust. A scattered ring of broken matter orbiting a dim, dying star. A dead planet. Elias sent an encrypted message to his supervisor, attaching the recording. He expected skepticism. He expected dismissal. What he did not expect was silence. Hours passed with no response. Then his phone rang. His supervisor's voice was tight, controlled, and afraid. Elias, she said. Don't play that signal again. Elias frowned. Why? There was a pause on the line. Long enough to feel wrong. Because, she finally said, we've been receiving it too. Elias felt his stomach drop. She continued. Different facilities. Different countries. Same message. Same voice. Same coordinates. Elias looked back at his screen. The waveform was still there, pulsing gently like a dying heartbeat. What is it? He asked. Her voice lowered. We don't know. But every time we amplify it, more voices appear. Elias's blood ran cold. How many? He asked. Another pause. Thousands, she said. All speaking at once. Elias slowly turned up the volume again. At first, there was only static. Then the whispers returned. Layer upon layer of voices overlapped, speaking in broken fragments, pleading, warning, remembering. They spoke of oceans that had boiled away, skies that had burned, cities that had turned to dust. They spoke of a world that had died screaming. And then one voice rose above the others, clearer than before, speaking directly to him. To those who listen, it said, do not answer. Elias's hands shook as he stared at the screen. Why? He whispered. The voice responded immediately. Because, it said, we are not calling for help. The signal pulsed once. Then it said the words that would change humanity forever. We are calling to be remembered. The signal did not stop. After that first night, it spread across Earth like a quiet infection. Radio telescopes, military satellites, private observatories, even old amateur listening equipment began to pick it up. The same coordinates. The same pulsing pattern. The same voices. Governments tried to silence it. They classified the data, shut down public access to deep space feeds, and told the media it was nothing more than solar interference. But it was too late. Recordings leaked. Amateur astronomers shared clips online. People began to listen. And once you listened long enough, the voices changed. Dr. Elias Morren barely slept. He remained at the facility, surrounded by humming machines and dim lights, replaying the signal over and over. Each time, the voices grew clearer, as if adjusting to human ears. As if learning. The main voice, the one that spoke with calm authority, began to explain. We were called the Lithari, it said. We were born beneath a violet sky, on a world rich with water and fire. Images began to appear in Elias's mind as he listened. He did not know if they were imagination or something more. Vast oceans shimmered under strange light. Towering structures of glass and metal rose from coastlines. Beings walked there, tall, slender shapes with glowing eyes and skin that reflected the sky above. The voice continued. Our planet was named Ashale. It orbited a stable star. For millions of cycles, we believed ourselves eternal. The signal carried more than sound now. Embedded within it were data bursts, mathematical structures, visual encodings, fragments of history. Teams around the world worked together in secret to decode them. What they found terrified them. Ashale had been more advanced than Earth by thousands of years. Their technology had mastered energy manipulation, gravity control, and space-time observation. They did not travel through space the way humans did. They listened to it, spoke to it, bent it, and that was their mistake. The voices described a discovery made deep within their planet's core. A vibration. A frequency that did not belong to matter or energy. It belonged to something older. We heard the universe speaking, the voice said. And we believed it was speaking to us. The Lithari thought they had found the source code of reality itself. A pattern beneath all existence. They built machines to amplify it, to translate it, to respond. When they answered, something answered back. At first, nothing changed. Their cities thrived. Their skies remained calm. Their star burned steady. Then the planet began to change. Ashale's oceans started to warm. Not slowly. Suddenly. Tectonic plates shifted in impossible ways. The magnetic field weakened. Their skies filled with storms that did not obey physics. The voices spoke faster now, overlapping with emotion. We tried to shut the machines down, one voice cried. But the signal was already inside the planet, said another. It had learned our world, whispered a third. Elias listened in horror as the story unfolded. Ashale was not destroyed by war or accident. It was consumed. The voices described how something had used their own technology as a doorway. Not a physical invasion, but an influence, rewriting natural laws, feeding on planetary energy, draining the world until it collapsed from within. Cities fell into the sea. Continents cracked apart. The sky burned purple as the atmosphere tore itself away. Yet the voices did not end. As the planet died, the Lithari made one final decision. They would not survive, but their memories would. They encoded their consciousness, their thoughts, their final moments into the signal itself. Not as individual minds, but as echoes. A chorus of memory preserved within a looping transmission. A planetary ghost. We are what remains, the voice said softly. Ashale is gone. Our bodies are dust. But our thoughts still travel. Elias felt sick. Why send it to us, he whispered, even though he knew the voice could not hear him directly. The signal answered anyway. Because your world listens as we once did. Elias's blood ran cold. Around the world, scientists began noticing something else. Earth's background radiation was changing. Not dramatically, but enough to be measurable. A faint shift in frequencies. A resonance. The same resonance described in the Lithari records. The same sound that had come from Ashale's core. The voices grew urgent. We do not warn you to save you, the lead voice said. We warn you because the universe repeats itself. Military leaders demanded the signal be shut down. Religious groups called it a test from God. Others worshipped the voices as ancient spirits. Online forums filled with theories, fear, and fascination. But the signal kept broadcasting. And the more humans listened, the clearer it became. Elias noticed something late one night while studying a spectrogram. The signal was no longer just repeating. It was evolving. New structures appeared. New phrasing. Human languages began to emerge: English, Mandarin, Arabic, Spanish, woven into the transmission. The voices were learning how to speak to Earth. Elias realized the truth before anyone else dared to say it out loud. The voices were not just memories. They were adapting. And whatever had destroyed Eshel might not be finished. As the night deepened, Elias heard a new message cut through the chorus, quieter but sharper than before. We remember how it begins, the voice said. And we remember how it ends. The world began to change quietly. At first, it was small things. Subtle shifts in electronics. Radios picking up static that hummed with unfamiliar tones. Phones vibrating with untraceable signals. People began reporting hearing whispers late at night, soft and distant, like voices carried on the wind, but with no source. Dr. Elias Morren noticed it in his own research facility. The signal from Eshel had been playing for weeks, looping endlessly, but now the voices began slipping into his daily life. In the cafeteria, he could hear them faintly through the hum of fluorescent lights. In the desert wind outside, faint echoes threaded through the sand. When he closed his eyes, he could almost see shapes moving in the darkness of his mind. And it wasn't just him. Across the world, people began to feel strange unease, a subtle compulsion to listen. At first, governments dismissed it as mass hysteria. But military and scientific facilities, once isolated and secure, reported that even heavily shielded equipment was picking up faint patterns of the signal. In some places, it almost seemed alive. Almost intelligent. Elias began compiling the reports. There were common threads. People who listened too long reported vivid dreams of a strange violet sky, of oceans boiling and cities cracking. Pets reacted aggressively or strangely in areas where signal strength was highest. Some individuals began speaking fragments of unknown language in their sleep. The voices themselves grew bolder. No longer only speaking in memories, they began to communicate directly, addressing humans individually. One night, Elias heard his name whispered clearly through the signal. He froze in his chair, heart hammering. Elias, it said. Do you understand? If humans complete this, it could invite the same destruction here. The chorus of voices began speaking directly to Clara and Elias through their equipment. No intermediaries. No filters. Not whispers anymore. They spoke inside the mind, almost physically. Do not stop them, they said. Do not resist. It is inevitable. We will be remembered. And through remembering, it will come. Clara shook her head. No. You're warning us, yes, but you're also leading us into the same trap. The voices responded, calm and almost sorrowful. We remember how it begins. We remember how it ends. You cannot prevent it. You can only witness it, and perhaps survive it, if you resist fully. Elias and Clara realized that the only humans untouched were those who avoided the signal entirely, those who had not heard it in full. But that population was shrinking. The signal was spreading, faster than they could predict, faster than they could track. By midnight, Oslo had been transformed. The city lights dimmed as people connected electrical systems, forming a massive lattice of energy aligned with the Lithorai instructions. The violet glow in their eyes pulsed in unison. Through satellite imaging, the formation looked alive, as if the city itself were becoming an extension of Ashael's memory. Elias whispered to Clara, voice barely audible over the hum of their equipment. If this continues, Earth could die the same way. Clara clenched her fists. Then we have to stop it. Somehow. Even if it's impossible. But deep down, both of them knew the truth. The chorus of voices had grown too strong. It was no longer just memories. It was presence. And the more humans listened, the stronger it became. Outside, in the violet-lit streets of Oslo, the people chanted together. Remember, remember, do not make the same mistake. And somewhere beneath the words, faint and almost imperceptible, another message whispered. And we will finish what we started. Clara and Elias could no longer watch from a distance. Oslo had become a living monument to a dead planet, a city reshaped in the image of Ashale. And if one city could fall under the influence, others would follow. They gathered in a remote underground facility in the Arctic, shielded from the signal by layers of lead, Faraday cages, and ancient stone. The silence was deafening. It was the first true quiet either of them had felt in weeks. But even there, the edges of the signal crept. Faint whispers slipped through cracks in the shielding, ghostly fragments of violet light memories. "We can't stop it," Elias said, pacing. "Not entirely. Wherever humans hear it, it grows. Wherever they record it, amplify it, or transmit it, it spreads. Like a virus." Clara ran her hands over the console, tracking the signal's global footprint. "It's not just memory anymore," she said. "It's preparing the world. I can feel it, shaping human thought, teaching, recruiting, and something else. Something beyond comprehension." Elias stopped. "The force that destroyed Ashale. It survived. And it's coming here." Clara's eyes widened. "But how? The planet was destroyed." "The Lithari encoded themselves in the signal, but that force, it traveled with the memories." Elias nodded. "I think it adapted. It learned to use memory, sound, even thought as a bridge. And now, we are the bridge." They worked tirelessly through the night. Using every shielded lab, every experimental neural blocking technology, they tried to find a way to resist the signal, to protect themselves and perhaps others. They discovered something startling. Complete isolation worked, but only temporarily. Exposure, even for a few minutes, allowed the voices to imprint themselves on thought, slowly influencing behavior. Clara shivered as a vision overtook her mind. She saw Ashale again, the burning skies, the oceans boiling, cities collapsing. And she felt the Lithari fear, the panic, the realization that they had answered something that should have been left alone. Elias looked over at her, pale. "We have to warn humanity, but how? Any broadcast will only spread it further." Clara shook her head. "Then we stop broadcasting. We stop amplifying. We have to isolate the signal entirely, but that's impossible. The signal is everywhere now." And then the voices spoke to them directly, inside their minds, stronger than ever. Not whispers, but commands. "Do not resist," they said. "Join us. Remember. Become part of what survives." Clara fought the compulsion, teeth gritted. "We won't," she whispered. "We are still human. And humans can resist." The voices replied, calm, almost sad. "Resistance delays, but cannot prevent. We know how it begins. We know how it ends. Ashale's story will repeat if it can, and we are the bridge." Hours passed. Clara and Elias debated a desperate strategy. Could they block the signal worldwide? Could they isolate humanity from it long enough to prevent mass influence? The answer was grim. It was already too late. Signals had reached deep into the neural patterns of millions. In Oslo, New York, Tokyo, and smaller cities, humans were becoming conduits for the memory. Each listener strengthened the chorus, amplified the influence, and taught the signal new ways to communicate, new languages, new methods of persuasion. Clara whispered to Elias, voice trembling, "If we try to fight it directly, we might die. Or worse, become part of it." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then what do we do?" Clara stared at the dimly lit monitors, violet glimmers reflecting faintly on the walls. "We resist. Individually. Quietly. And hope enough of humanity resists to survive the bridge. We can't fight it everywhere. But we can survive it, and maybe preserve what comes next." Elias swallowed hard. "Even if the world falls." Clara nodded. "Even if the world falls." As dawn approached in the Arctic, a new chorus began to form. Unlike before, it did not call only to the minds of humans already listening. It reached outward, sweeping across the globe, preparing the next wave of influence. And then the message came, chilling and deliberate. "Those who resist will be remembered separately. But do not expect mercy. What survives is what endures. The dead planet will teach again." Clara and Elias exchanged a grim glance. They had survived Ashale's memory once. But surviving what came next would require more than courage. It would require the impossible. The day began quietly, deceptively calm. Clara and Elias had chosen a small city in northern Canada as their test. Shielded by mountains and dense forests, It was isolated enough to experiment with human resistance to the signal. The plan was simple in theory: isolate the population, block the signal as much as possible, and observe how humans reacted without the chorus guiding them. In practice, it was terrifying. The moment they activated their shielding arrays, the air seemed to shift. A low hum, faint at first, rose around the perimeter, vibrating through the ground. Birds fell silent. Trees shivered. It was as if the city itself were aware of their attempt to resist. Inside the control room, Clara's hands shook as she monitored the signal. Thousands of human minds were being influenced, even here. Slowly, ever so slowly, the chorus adapted to the shielding, finding small cracks in communication networks, in underground wiring, even in human memory. They are learning to bypass it, Elias said grimly. Even here. Clara bit her lip. We have to try anyway. If we can hold them here, maybe the spread can be slowed. They initiated the protocol. Shielding domes rose over key areas. All electronic communication was cut off. Radios, phones, internet, dead. Even the city's power grid was partially shut down. For a few hours, the experiment seemed to work. The hum outside faded. The influenced humans began to pause, confusion spreading in their eyes. They were no longer guided, no longer speaking in unison. But the chorus did not give up. A low whisper penetrated even the shielding, not through sound, but directly into thought. Clara felt it pressing against her skull, bending her perception, weaving the violet skies and boiling oceans into her vision. You cannot hide, it whispered. You cannot resist. The bridge is everywhere. We know how it begins. We know how it ends. Elias's face went pale. It's reaching us through thought, not signal. It's adapting. Suddenly, the influenced humans outside began moving in perfect coordination, despite the lack of guidance from technology. They were walking, almost floating, in patterns reminiscent of Ashael's destroyed cities. Every street, every building, every park became part of the pattern. Clara realized the horrifying truth. The signal didn't need technology. It had taught humanity how to rebuild the dead planet, using our own minds as construction tools. We can't stop them with shields, she said, voice shaking. We can only resist individually. They watched in horror as the city transformed. The humans moved in geometric precision, constructing towers and lattices using materials from buildings, cars, even streets. The pattern pulsed faintly with a violet light that seemed to rise from the ground itself. Clara gritted her teeth. We need to intervene physically. Elias nodded, fear in his eyes. We risk exposure, but we have no choice. They ventured out into the city, shielding helmets on, trying to break the patterns, dismantle the structures, and prevent the humans from completing the replication of Ashael. But with every intervention, the chorus grew stronger. The humans resisted their efforts, moving with impossible coordination, murmuring the Lithorai phrases in unison, glowing faintly in the violet light. Clara felt her mind beginning to slip under the pressure. The chorus was relentless. Every thought, every memory was being touched, nudged, shaped. And then she saw it, a figure in the center of the city square, standing still while the structures rose around it. Violet light emanated from its eyes, and every human in the city seemed to move toward it, drawn as if by gravity. The signal is concentrating, Elias whispered. It's forming a focal point. That's how it spreads faster. That's how it will reach the world. Clara knew what they had to do. To break the pattern, they needed to destroy the focal point, even if it meant confronting the signal directly, risking assimilation, or worse. They advanced toward the figure, hearts pounding. The chorus intensified, voices overlapping, speaking in thousands of tongues, pleading, warning, commanding. And then, just as they reached the center, the figure spoke, not in words humans could fully understand, but directly into their minds. Join us, it said. Become memory. Become presence. Become Ashael. Clara felt the pull. Elias struggled beside her. It was as if the dead planet itself were reaching into their minds, bending reality, bending their will. But she remembered her purpose. She remembered humanity. She remembered the warning of the Lithorai themselves. No, she whispered, voice trembling but firm. We will not become you. We will survive. The figure pulsed violently, the violet light exploding outward. The city trembled. Structures began to collapse. Humans staggered but did not stop entirely. Clara and Elias pushed forward, destroying the focal point with a combination of shields, fire, and sheer willpower. The chorus screamed, thousands of voices overlapping in agony, frustration, and sorrow. For a moment, silence fell. The city was still. The humans paused. The violet glow faded slightly. But deep in the shadows of their minds, Clara and Elias felt the whisper remain, faint but certain. This is not the end. Only a beginning. Remember how it begins, remember how it ends. The morning after the confrontation, the city was quiet. The violet glow had faded. Buildings were damaged, streets cracked, but the humans, those who had been influenced, were alive, confused, and slowly regaining awareness. Some cried. Some stared at the structures they had built, unable to understand why they had acted with such precision, such obedience. Clara and Elias stood on a high ridge overlooking the city. Exhausted, bruised, and haunted by what they had witnessed, they realized the truth. They had delayed the signal, disrupted its pattern, but they had not destroyed it. Elias broke the silence. It's still out there. Still everywhere. Still waiting. It doesn't need the city to exist. It only needed to learn. And now, it knows how we resist. Clara's voice was low, almost a whisper. We survived, yes. But every human who listened, even briefly, is still vulnerable. Every signal, every broadcast, every recording could allow it to grow again. The memory of Ashael will never fully leave. In the weeks that followed, the world tried to recover. Governments enforced communication blackouts, research labs were monitored, and countless individuals were quarantined from signal exposure. The Lithari memories, carried in fragments, could no longer overwhelm entire cities, but they persisted. People still reported whispers in dreams, fragments of violet skies, oceans boiling, and collapsing cities. The signal had become part of human consciousness. Clara and Elias continued their work. They developed shielding systems, neural blockers, and protocols for resisting influence. They trained volunteers, small groups of people determined to survive the whispers. But even as they worked, a haunting realization settled over them. The Ashael voices were not evil, at least not intentionally. They were memories. Warnings. Knowledge encoded to survive a dead planet. Yet, their survival carried danger. The same memories that could teach humans to avoid destruction could also guide the force that destroyed Ashael to Earth, if humans listened too closely. Clara often sat in silence, replaying fragments of the signal in her mind. Sometimes she heard the chorus softly, almost tenderly. Remember us. Remember how it begins. Remember how it ends. And then, a faint whisper beneath the chorus. And we will come again. Elias put a hand on her shoulder. We survived. That's all we can do. Humanity survived. That's the point. Ashael's story is a warning, not a prophecy. Clara nodded, though unease lingered. She knew that somewhere out there, the dead planet's memory floated in space, reaching for ears that might hear it. And someday, humanity might have to face it again. For now, though, the world remained alive. People rebuilt, slowly, cautiously. And the chorus of Ashael remained only in memory, faint, echoing, a reminder that even in silence, a dead planet could still speak. Elias finally spoke, voice steady but heavy with fatigue. We record it. We teach the next generation. We resist. That's all we can do. Clara looked up at the sky, the stars distant and cold, yet unchanged. For a moment, it seemed peaceful. But in the quiet corners of the universe, a faint pulse echoed, a memory traveling across space. A whisper for any who might listen. Remember, remember, remember. And humanity, fragile but resilient, did.